This weekend, it is UFC 314. We've been previewing the show all week. Let's get into the actual nuts and bolts of it now with our fight preview here on Couch Potato Diary. It is another pay-per-view week for the Ultimate Fighting Championship, as they are out with UFC 314 coming up this weekend. In the main event, it is Alex Volkanovski taking on Diego Lopez for the Featherweight Championship. Co-main event, we got Michael Chandler taking on Paddy Pimblett. Real interesting fight coming up in the lightweight division. So let's run through some of our main card, not some of our, all of our main card picks. We start in the light heavyweight division. It is Nikita Krylov taking on Dominic Reyes. Krylov is 33 years old, born in Ukraine, although he tends to be a little bit more on the Russian side of things in that whole thing. 77.5-inch reach, training out of Valley Tudo MMA Academy. He is 30-9 with 12 wins by knockout, 16 by submission. He has been knocked out once in his MMA career and submitted 6 times. His last victory coming at Ultimate Fight Night in March of 2023, where he picked up a submission win over Ryan Spann. He's won 3 in a row, 2 first-round finishes, and a decision win over Volkan Ozdemir. He's been in the UFC twice. He went 6-3 in the first run, 5-4 on this current run. He's been finished in 2 of those 4 losses. A pro since 2012, and while, black belt, there's prestige and everything that comes with that. That part of the world, they do these things so much cooler, because Nikita Krylov, instead of, he's a karate black belt or whatever, he is a master of sports of Ukraine. He's a first-degree black belt in Kyokushin, karate. I didn't say that right the second time either, but we're just going to move on. He is a master of sport of Ukraine in hand-to-hand combat and a master of sports in submission fighting. You have those things on your resume, you're a terrifying human being. That is a scary list of things to be called, a master of sports in hand-to-hand combat. That is such a badass way of putting, this guy beats up people. So there you go. He's just, it's so cool how they call those things over there. Anyway, not the point. He is taking on Dominic Reyes, 35 years old, born in California. He stands at 6'4" with a 77-inch reach, training at Joe Stevenson's Cobra Kai. 14-4 is the record, 9 wins by knockout, another 2 by submission, with 3 losses coming by way of knockout, and the judge is required on 1 of his losses. So his resume includes a knockout win over Anthony Smith at UFC 310, back-to-back KO wins after 4 straight losses. 3 of those were knockout losses. Reyes started his career with 12 straight wins, earning an opportunity at the light heavyweight championship against John Jones. He would lose that, and thus starting the 4-fight losing streak. 8-4 in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, with 6 finish wins in that time, and he has been a pro since 2014. So it's interesting to talk about Krylov with the layoff there, going all the way back to March of 2023. So we're talking about a couple of years now since this guy has been fighting in the octagon, and he is the betting favorite coming into this one. He is at minus 185 going up against Dominic Reyes, plus 155. Reyes, that 3-fight winning streak, back-to-back wins, it's not quite the level of fighters that he was losing to, right? It feels like it is a bit of a restart. And Anthony Smith, when we look at the career, yes, but that's his most recent bout. And it's just Anthony Smith is not that guy anymore. Now, I will say, Nikita Krylov, again, he has a couple wins over some dudes. The 3-fight win streak starts with a victory over Alexander Gustafsson, and then a decision win over Volkan Ozdemir. Those are guys. And the submission win over Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann beat Dominic Reyes a little bit ago. I believe they fought. Anyway, I might have that mixed up. Either way, you have this, both of these guys who, it seems like they faced real tests, stumbled, we hit a banana peel, and now they're coming out of it and now seeing where they stand. I feel like 2 years off for Krylov is just a little bit too much right now. And I understand, Dominic Reyes certainly seems kind of post-Apex at this point, but I do like his game a little bit more than I like Krylov's at this point. I just think he's a little bit more dynamic as a fighter. So I think there's an actually Excuse me. I think there's actually pretty good value there in Dominic Reyes at plus 155 as an underdog pick. Again, I think some pretty good value. I like Dominic Reyes to pick up the win in that one. This next fight, this is not going to be your traditional breakdown from me, as it is Bryce Mitchell taking on Jean Silva in the featherweight division. If Bryce Mitchell, you hear that name and it kind of rings a bell, I promise you it's not for good reasons. He is an absolute piece of shit. Bryce Mitchell has stated before that the U.S. government stages mass shootings to advance a gun confiscation agenda. He has also criticized the Federal Reserve as a corruption institution that is manipulating the value of the U.S. dollar. He is a flat earther that believes gravity is a hoax. And in 2024, he indicated that he would homeschool his son because he did not want him to be a communist, to worship Satan, or to be gay. In January of this year, he made several horrendous remarks. I'm not going to repeat any of them because I don't want it to be able to be clipped that I said those things, but he was a Holocaust denier. And not only that, but had some very positive things to say about the side of that was putting on the Holocaust. So just a horrendous human being. And also said that gender-affirming surgeries in Germany are evidence of societal decline. So Bryce Mitchell is a significant underdog in this fight, and there is no end to the amount of ass kicking I want this guy to receive. So I hope Brian Mitchell just gets absolutely annihilated in this fight. So I take Silva by any means necessary to win that fight. Moving on. We do have another intriguing fight coming up in the featherweight division as Yair Rodriguez takes on Patricio Pitbull. Rodriguez is 32 years old, born in Mexico, standing at 5'11", with a 71-inch reach advantage. He trains at Huntington Beach Ultimate Training Center. He is 19-5 with 1 no contest, 8 wins by knockout, 5 by submission, 3 knockout losses, and 1 submission loss. His last fight was a submission loss to Brian Ortega back at the Ultimate Fight Night card in February of 2024. So, again, bit of a long layoff there. Back-to-back losses, finished in the 3rd round in both of them. 4 losses in the UFC. He's been in the promotion since 2014, 10-4 with 1 no contest. 3 of the 4 losses against former champions in Frankie Edgar, Max Holloway, and Alex Volkanovski. And the other loss, a former title challenger in Brian Ortega. So maybe we do a little bit more losing than we want if we're Yair Rodriguez, but we're facing the best of the best in those fights. He's been a pro since 2011. And he is welcoming promotional newcomer, but certainly not a newcomer, to high-level fighting. It is Patricio Pitbull, who's 37 years old now, training out of Brazil, 5'6", with a 65.5-inch reach advantage, training at his own gym, Pitbull Brothers. 36-7 for the career, 12 wins by knockout, another 12 by submission. He has been stopped just 3 times in his career, 2 of them by knockout, and the 1 time he was submitted. This is, I think, an interesting fight when you look at it from Pitbull's standpoint. Again, he's a newcomer to the Ultimate Fighting Championship. His last fight was a 3rd-round knockout win over Jeremy Kennedy at the Bellator Champion Series 1. That ended a 2-fight losing streak for him and was his first finish win since 2021. He's 4-3 in his last 7. 1 finish win, was finished twice. He's the former Bellator lightweight and featherweight champion, also challenging for the bantamweight championship. He exits Bellator with the most wins in that promotion's history, and given the state of it right now, will probably finish with the most wins in Bellator history. Also the most wins in title fights in Bellator history. He was the runner-up in Bellator Season 2 featherweight tournament, won Season 4 and Season 9. He joined Bellator in 2010 at Bellator 15. 24-7 was his career in that promotion, and he is a BJJ black belt. This is going to be a really fun fight. Both these guys can bring the action. Both of these guys effective on the feet, effective on the ground, well-rounded guys, but I do think that, maybe Pitbull, just given where this fight, given how these guys fight, I do think Pitbull probably would prefer this fight to be on the ground, and Yair would probably prefer this one to be a stand-up battle. The big number that stood out from what I read to you guys was that reach. Rodriguez, you can make a case that Rodriguez is a lightweight, fighting at featherweight, and you could make a case at this point in his career, Pitbull is a bantamweight fighting at featherweight. Because Rodriguez is 5'11 with a 71-inch reach, and Pitbull is 5'6 with a 65.5-inch reach. And I just think Yair is a skilled enough striker that he is going to be able to keep that distance, keep Pitbull off of him, and be able to pick up a victory here. So I think that this is... I think it's a fun fight. I think it's a really entertaining fight. I think it is a good kind of litmus test to see where Pitbull is right now. But I do think at the end of the day, I think Yair Rodriguez probably comes away with a victory here. Just trying to take a look at some of the props for this one. And of course, the first site I go to doesn't have them up yet. It's Thursday. We should have those props up by now, right? I'm just going to put that out there. This is a UFC fight card. We should have props available for us. But go to a different one. Gonna click on that because Yair's a minus 189 favorite. There's not, I don't think, a ton of value in that one. You can get under 2.5 rounds at plus 120. So I think there is a little bit of intrigue in that. Yair Rodriguez by knockout or disqualification is plus 300. So I think that's where the value is Yair Rodriguez getting a finish win, because I think that there's going to be a lot of action here. And I think Yair, I don't think he's going to be able to pitter pat his way to a win over Pitbull. I think there's going to have to be some substantial punches coming on the other end for Yair, and I think he's going to have to put him away. So that is what I would click on there, is Yair to finish, getting a knockout win there at plus 300. And then we get into the co-main event, as it is Michael Chandler taking on Paddy Pimblett in the lightweight division. Chandler is 38 years old, born in High Ridge, Missouri, training out of Killcliff FC and Nashville MMA, 23-9, with 11 wins by knockout, 7 by submission, 4 losses by knockout, and 1 submission loss. He is coming off of a decision loss against Charles Oliveira at UFC 309. He's lost 4 of his last 5, 2 by decision and 2 by finish. He's 2-4 in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. He's finished both of his victories. He has been with the promotion since 2021. Hasn't won a decision since 2018. That was back in Bellator at Bellator 212 against Brent Primus. He's a 3-time Bellator lightweight champion. He went 18-5 in that promotion. He is a 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu black belt, who is also a Division I All-American wrestler. Back in 2009, he was a 2-time Big 12 runner-up and team captain at the University of Missouri. Taking on Paddy Pimblett, who is 30 years old, born in Liverpool, England, training at Next Generation MMA Liverpool, 22-3 for the career, 6 wins by knockout, 10 by submission. He has been submitted once and otherwise lost 2 when it went to the judges' scorecards. His last victory was his last fight, and it was a submission win over King Green back at UFC 304, riding an 8-fight win streak. He has finished 6 of his last 8. Green submission ends run of back-to-back decisions. He's been in the UFC since 2021, and in 6 fights, he has 6 wins, finishing 3 in the first round. He hasn't been finished since 2013, and he is the former Cage Warriors Fighting Championship featherweight champion and has been a professional since 2012. So, we have again, this is a really interesting fight, because Michael Chandler, we still view him as a high-level fighter, but he has lost 4 of his last 5. Now, the guys who he has lost to: Poirier, Oliveira, Gaethje. No harm, no foul in any of that. His only win in that time is against Tony Ferguson, who is, I said the other day, fighting on the Champions Tour, which might not even be a thing right now, which, oh my goodness, what an unpredictable thing that GFL might not happen. Stunned. But neither here nor there. Pimblett, on the other hand, like, he has a win over Tony Ferguson, and David Goggins couldn't help him on that night. And the win over King Green. Like, these are wins over names, but names that are kind of post-Apex, which Michael Chandler falls into. And someone made a comment on one of the Paddy Pimblett, I made a short of the Paddy Pimblett, like, this kind of a lose-lose situation for him. Sorry, I'm just going to try to pull up that comment here really quick. Better host would have had that one maybe a bit more prepared. But here, Chandler is good, though. I don't get how you call him washed up. He's lost to straight killers. That is fair, but it's still, like, he was a straight killer. And so washed up might be a bit of an overstatement. And that was taken a touch out of context, where I was saying, like, if Paddy Pimblett loses this fight, it's, man, you're losing to washed up guys who've lost 4 of their last 5. And if you beat him, it's like, yeah, okay, well, that's his fifth loss in 6 fights, sorry. who cares? So like there isn't a whole lot to be gained for Paddy Pimblett in this. And so no, I don't think Michael Chandler is washed up, but it is concerning that he is only beating washed up fighters right now. And Paddy Pimblett does not fall into that category, but the guys who he's fighting don't necessarily give you this like, okay, well, he's on the rise, here we go. So it is a little bit frustrating because I think Paddy Pimblett, like obviously there is a big draw to him, and he has a lot of charisma and personality and all of those sorts of things, and he's a good fighter. And we're just throwing him in there against these big names and trying to take advantage of this. The guy's 30 now. Like we should be having real fights. And I'm not saying Michael Chandler isn't a real fight, but after this, I'm gonna need someone with a number by their name for Paddy Pimblett if we get a win in this one. I need to have him start fighting against like not just the guys of a few years ago, but the guys of now. I like Michael Chandler a lot. Like some of the fights that he had in Bellator are just the stuff of legend, and he is such an action fighter, and it is so much fun to watch him fight. I just feel like at this point though, Paddy Pimblett is a step above in what he can do, and I didn't think I would be at that point, but just you go back and you watch some of the fights, and it's like, yeah, I just think Pimblett has a bit more sharpness to his game, a bit more of a crispness to his game at this point now than a 38-year-old Michael Chandler. So I do think that Paddy Pimblett comes away with a win in this one here in Miami. Just taking a look at the odds, I don't think minus 150. That is right on the edge of I think we'll do that. So Paddy Pimblett, we're going to put him on the card at minus 150 for that one. And then we get to our main event of the evening. Another very intriguing fight, as it is Alex Volkanovski taking on Diego Lopes for the UFC's Featherweight Championship. Volkanovski, the former title holder, is 36 years old, standing 5'6". He was born in New South Wales, Australia, training at the infamous City Kickboxing. 26-4 for his career, 13 wins by knockout, another 3 by submission, 3 knockout losses, and 1 decision loss. He is coming off of a knockout loss against Ilia Topuria at UFC 294. It was his first loss at featherweight, and it is now back-to-back knockout losses for him. He has lost 3 of his last 4, 2 of those coming to Islam Makhachev. 5 featherweight title defenses in the UFC is the second most in UFC featherweight history. He's the first Australian-born fighter to win a UFC championship. A 22-fight win streak was ended with his first loss to Makhachev at UFC 284. In his time in the Ultimate Proving Ground, he is 13-3, a pro since 2012 who started his career insanely at welterweight. He is taking on Lopes, who is now 30 years old, at 5'11", 72-inch reach, training out of Brazil, training at Lobo Gym MMA, 26-6 for the MMA record with 10 wins by knockout, another 12 by submission. He has been knocked out twice and has 4 decision losses, coming off of a unanimous decision win over Brian Ortega at UFC 306. It is a 5-fight win streak. 3 of those, the first 3, came in under a minute 40. Now it's back-to-back decisions. He took his UFC debut on short notice, just 5 days, losing to Movsar Evloev. He's 5-1 in the UFC, and he's been in the promotion since 2023, after a bit of a setback on Dana White's Contender Series in 2021. A pro since 2012, he is a BJJ black belt. If you are a long consumer of my content, you will know that I am a fan of Alex Volkanovski. I think he is genuinely one of the better fighters in the history of this sport, and I think he puts together all the aspects of MMA so effectively. But it has been a bit of a rough go. And again, you can very easily explain it away where, okay, he lost to Makhachev, and really, did he? Because that was a really, really close fight, that first one. But then the second one, and now he took it on short notice, but he got absolutely blasted away. And then the fight against Ilia Topuria, I mean, it was going okay until it wasn't. And Topuria gets the knockout. Now, you are going up against, at 30 years old, I hesitate to say prospect, but a guy who was a prospect is now moved up into challenger status and kind of does a lot of the things that Makhachev, maybe not necessarily Makhachev, but some of the things that Topuria definitely gave him some problems with, and proved in his last bout against Brian Ortega that he can kind of keep the fight in the area that would give Volkanovski the most issue. So again, I love this is it's a painful card for me because I like Michael Chandler and I picked against Michael Chandler and I like Volkanovski and he is the favorite going into this. I think the run is over. And we talked about it before. It is also desperation time for Volkanovski, because a loss in this fight and title hopes, I think, are done. He's 36 years old, and if he loses, then he will have lost to the 145-pound champion, the 155-pound champion, and the number one contender for the 155-pound title. Only so many places you can go from that. Now, if it's a competitive loss, you can probably get a rematch against Diego Lopez, but still, this is kind of it. This is the last dance for Volkanovski. And so there is some desperation in there. And I just have to assume, given the work ethic of this man, that he is understanding of that. And he needs to kind of push that a little bit more. But we have seen so many times, and we're seeing it at City Kickboxing right now with Israel Adesanya. Sometimes when your time is done, your time is done. And now it's kind of Lopez's time. And I do think that he maybe skipped a step. I do think that there is a step you go from beating Dan Ige and Brian Ortega to then getting a shot at Alex Volkanovski. But he also proved in those fights, like, it wasn't just he blasted through them in a minute and a half. He outpoints the two veterans that he was fighting and shows that he can go the distance, shows that he can outpoint someone and fight a smart fight and pick up a win. So I think it is now Diego Lopez's time. I think that there is a bit of a size advantage for him. I think that he is going to be a touch quicker on the feet, quite frankly. I think he's going to be a little bit more explosive at this point, and I think it's going to be a frustrating night for Volkanovski. And so I have Diego Lopez winning it, and he is the underdog at plus 125. So I think, again, we're getting a pretty good value there with Lopez on this card. Taking a look again at some of the odds, because I don't think he stops Volkanovski. Although I guess, like, Volk has been stopped twice now, right? Against Makhachev and against Topuria. And Lopez does have kind of that finishing ability. I think that this will be a bit more of a points one. And so, like, Lopez by decision is plus 450. So I think there's some value in that. Although, again, if you think, like, Volk's been finished a couple of times, maybe that button's a little bit easier to push now. It is plus 230 for a knockout win for Lopez. So either way you think this fight's going to go, I think there's a little bit of value in those two spots as well. Do we have one for him to just finish just inside the distance? Sorry. I don't necessarily see that here really quickly. Fighter to win inside the distance. There we go. Lopez plus 150. That might be the way to go. Although what are we getting him at right now just to win? Plus 125. So we're not really adding a whole lot in that. So you know what? Honestly, plus 125 might just be the best way to go, unless you have a strong feel on if he can finish Volkanovski or not. But either way, I think this is a very intriguing fight card, up and down, when you look at, like, kind of the placement of these guys. Like, where is Paddy Pimblett? Where is Michael Chandler at this point in lightweight? This is a really interesting test to figure that out. Volkanovski, does he have one more championship run in him? Or have those losses now just caught up to him? Patricio Pitbull, a legend in Bellator, now coming into the Ultimate Fighting Championship against a guy who fights a style that is complementary to what he wants to do at a high level. So is he still at that high level in the UFC? We get to figure that out coming up on Saturday. Yao Xiaonan is an underdog against Verna Jandiroba. That is, I think, kind of, I don't want to say insane, but when you think back to Xiaonan being a title challenger, now coming off of that with a decision win, this is a chance for her to prove that she still has something left in the tank. Or is she done? Like, there is a lot of fork in the road moments at UFC 314, where you have on one hand an opportunity to move either, in Volkanovski's case in the main event, into that championship position, or in Chandler's case, in Xiaonan's case, and I would say both for Yair and Patricio Pitbull, into title contention, or at least keeping those title hopes alive, where a loss kind of puts you down the path of it's going to be really hard to get back over to this championship level now in the UFC. So a lot of very important fights coming up at UFC 314 this weekend.